I'll get there, I promise. Hi, it's Magpie from the Ticker Talker. Welcome to Bridges with Boundaries. My partner is going to be late because she's got a job that says that has to happen sometimes. While she's gone, I'm just going to go over a couple of things and a couple of people that we absolutely adore and some people we want to make sure that we support. First, I'd like to talk about the lovely ladies who have organized the Stop the Clock protests in regards to the oppression and the pushing down of the content of creators of color on the TikTok app, Cuban Delight, um, Closet Talk 101, Mo, Lisa the God. They're three amazing women who've done amazing things. They deserve all the support. Absolutely. A couple of other things that we're going to talk about are the Kellogg's strike. It started on October 5th. There are five separate factories in five separate states that are involved in this situation. And each one of these factories has their own strike fund and their own people to support. The union heads are going to be heading back from the meetings today because negotiations didn't go anywhere. And Kellogg's has went ahead and put out um, job wanted ads for temporary positions with the possibility of permanent placement. So things are not looking real great in that union. There's still the nurses strike going on. Mute the Media is actually somebody, and No Use for Names covers those types of things really, really well. We personally really appreciate them. Another person we'd like to talk about is Dr. Kimberly Douglas. She's an amazing neurodivergent individual who has created beautiful, safe spaces for people with neurodivergencies to explore their situations. And yay, kids. Um, but yeah, she's an amazing person. She's created a Discord. There's a newsletter that goes out. There are life coaches that are available through her and her Discord. She's pushing entrepreneurship and the further the continued education of neurodivergent people. She's an amazing individual, and the spaces that she's creating are absolutely exciting, and I'm thrilled to be a part of them. Again, we are Bridges with Boundaries. I am Magpie, my partner. Hold on one second. I'll be right back. Yeah, yes. Hey, ma'am, when you got to go, you got to go. Um, where was I? Oh, Kimberly Douglas, an amazing individual, has created amazing spaces. It's super exciting that I get to be a part of those things. There are life coaches, there are accessible resources. Another group that we'd like to discuss and we will be constantly promoting is the Lavender Polka Dot Society. It is a survivor based network of resources and individuals to create um, safe spaces and resources for survivors to continue on their journey to healing and growth. It was started by a really close friend of mine by the name of Shelby. There's also an amazing person, AK, who's somebody else that I love very much. And a few other amazing women have come together. We are accepting applications for volunteers. They have just put in the paperwork to apply for their non for profit standings. And insurance, I guess, is the next step. There have already been a couple of people that they have stepped in and changed the lives of. And it's, again, super exciting to be a part of that. Tonight's show was actually going to feature a couple of guests, but due to extenuating circumstances, the individuals could not be here. We were going to talk about mental health and self care in the Black community. I will still obviously talk about those things and we'll continue to push those things, but I think this episode is probably going to be more so an introduction to myself and to Miss QT Pie. And we would like to talk about what we want to do here on this program and the services and the resources we would like to provide. And even more than that, the safe space that we'd like to provide to have conversations that she and I feel are truly the basis of what needs to be heard and needs to be talked about within the United States and the world, actually. It doesn't just involve us as a country. It doesn't involve us as a continent. It involves us as a race of human beings and how we have divided ourselves and what we have done to create dysfunction within our communities. It doesn't look like there are anybody tuning in at the moment, but that's fine. I can totally talk to a brick wall, and it usually talks back to me. Yeah, the basis of our thought process is the womanist movement. The womanist movement began after the feminist movement began to disclude the discriminatory experiences that happened to Black and Indigenous women. In the 1950s and 60s and 70s, there was this huge push for female equality and wages equality and all of the things that we are fighting for now within the feminist movement. But at a certain point, it was noticed that the discriminatory experiences given to Black and Indigenous women were not recognized. They were not given their credit. And so the Black community had to separate from the feminist movement. I can't say that I blame them in any regard. I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. But a woman by the name of Alice Walker kind of started separating. And a womanist is any female who believes that promoting the Black and brown woman to the forefront understands and focusing on their experience understands that that will be the thing that pushes us to the next step of evolution and the next step of solidarity as a community. The womanist movement believes that they should be the leaders and they should be the ones we're focusing on. I'll be right back again. And this is why having my partner here is always good, because my daughter doesn't do what she's supposed to. I'll be right back again. Yay, ironing out the kinks. Yeah. We're here to promote the idea of safety and protection for the divine feminine within oppressed communities. We are here to lift up their voices. We are here to create safe spaces for them. We are here to have conversations that are difficult to have. We're here to talk about the history of white supremacy around the globe. We are here to talk about how it has affected the relationship between white women and Black women. We are here to talk about how that has affected the relationship between Black men and Black women. I personally understand that as a white woman, there will be a lot of these conversations that I will just honestly be privileged to get to witness. And there are a lot of conversations that somebody needs to stand up and say, yes, we take responsibility for this. This is an exciting program. QT Pie and I have honestly thought about doing this our entire lives. individually, and then when we found each other and our energies matched so perfectly, it just kind of all fell into place. I cannot wait till she gets here because I feel like I'm messing it all up. But she tell me I'm doing fine, and we're just winging it anyway on the first show. I'm excited. I'm excited to have conversations with people that I respect. I'm excited to allow women to understand that there are safe spaces where they can have these conversations. I'm here to let people know that there are people trying to take responsibility for the history of us. And I'm here to teach that there is not individual histories between the Black and the white and the Indigenous communities, that this is our history as a combined community of the human race on the planet. And it had to start somewhere, and that's kind of been my goal throughout life. And it's been QT Pies too. So we'll see what happens. So again, I would like to highlight a couple of people. These are the amazing women that did the Stop the Clock protest. They are also boots on the ground constantly. We've got Lisa the God, Cuban Delight, and Closet Talk 101. Amazing people who fight every single day to make sure that injustices are heard and that people get backed up. And they travel across the country to make sure that these situations happen. And then there's also Dr. Kimberly Douglas, who has created an amazing safe space for people to explore their neurodivergencies, to explore the next step in their life, and to feel comfortable in their own skin. Because in this world of neurotypical boundaries and standards, it's difficult. Let's be honest. Well, it's difficult for me. My neurodivergency just got diagnosed at the age of 38, which is another thing that we will talk about, the tendencies to not have things diagnosed in the feminine communities versus the masculine communities, and the bigotry and the biases that come along with being a person of color or a Black person in the United States. And we'll discuss the idea of the valid fear that these communities have and the apprehension that they have towards the vaccination due to experimentation on them for a really, really long time. And then again, there is this is AK's GoFundMe. AK is another person who works really well with the Lavender Polka Dot Society. It's really awesome. Oh, it looks like my partner is here. Thank God my rambling ass couldn't do this for very much longer. And I would very pleased and very happy to introduce my partner in crime and one of my closest friends, Miss QT Pie.
Hi.
Hello, Miss QT Pie.
Hello.
So the
Work
baby's
ran
not in
late.
bed. She had to
Sorry.
use the bathroom in the middle of it, and there's been some things, but we're flying along.
That's good.
I'm gonna
That's good.
take you. I'm gonna take a second, and I'm gonna. Oh, what happened to you? Where'd you go?
Hold on. Up to my camera.
I've been rambling for a good
Weird.
solid 15 minutes.
I'll be right back.
Oh, take your time. So yeah, this is AK's GoFundMe. AK is an amazing individual. Oh, doggone, they only got sweet. AK is an awesome person. They are a graphic designer. They live in in a huge crossroad of intersectionality. They give everything that they have. They really truly do. They have designed websites and merch and produced stuff for almost every movement that is currently out there and acting. They work with Black Lives Matter. They work with the MMIW. They work with trans lives. They work with the Alphabet Mafia in every regard. And just about every penny or dime that this person makes off of anything that they do, they literally turn around and give back to these communities. So you will hear a lot about this person until they reach their goal. Again, they are connected to the Lavender Polka Dot Society. I'm a Momo and did not put up the Lavender Polka Dot Society's website. That will come. But yeah, there's a huge, huge division, and these conversations meet at the road of intersectionality. And my partner and I really are just excited to be able to have this and introduce these concepts.
Yes, we are.
So I'm going to actually step away for a second because there is a 3-year-old that has decided that she hears my voice. I'm going to let you talk about yourself for a minute, and I will be back.
All right. So, this is our first, of course, show. And I'm just really excited because this is a concept I've had for a long time to start a panel and just have these open forum kind of conversations. Um, just trying to bridge the gap with people instead of everything being all conservative and politics. And politics is really taking over our lives along with COVID. And I just felt like we, as a community of people, we are losing our humanity a bit. So this is just amazing that we're taking this concept that I had and now we're making it a reality. So I'm really excited about that. I don't know what she went over with you, if she talked about all the different protests that are going on, but we would like to, of course, be involved in, you know, raise funding where needed. Because again, it's about community and bringing back a little bit of humanity and start caring about one another and not what, you know, politicians you support. Um, I don't know. I'm just really excited. This is all new. This is all fun. Um, Sorry, we had a list of things to talk about. I know we were going to talk about self care tonight. I did want to shout out a few people while I'm thinking of it. I want to talk about the Stop the Clock protest that happened. I believe it was last Saturday with We Are Here for It. They are a group of three. You may know them as Police of the God, Closet Talk 101, Cuban Delight. Those ladies are always boots on the ground. They're usually organizing for different protests, and their pictures right there. They're truly amazing, and they're always looking for donations, offerings, so they can be where they're needed to help and assist the communities. Um, I feel like our government has really failed us a lot. So it's really refreshing to see how people are trying to come together and trying to do something for the communities, whether they live there within them or not. Um, these ladies just have done some amazing things, and to be a part of it, witness it, you know, fun for it, whatever. It's just really amazing. I really appreciate them. Um, I also want to talk about Mute the Media and their crew. They have done some really phenomenal boots on the ground themselves with the Kellogg's protest and keeping us updated. I know if you follow him on TikTok, that's No Use for Names. He's really been boots on the ground and standing there with the workers. And we just really appreciate the fact that we have so many connections to so many wonderful people who are really just putting in the work to make it a better place out here. Our government's severely lacking, and we are definitely picking up all the loose ends and trying to bridge the divide. So I just really want to shout them out because they do a really good job of just protesting, raising funding, being wherever they're needed, and that's what we're here to do as well. I don't know what else you talked about. Did you talk about Lavender Polka Dot Society?
I did. I was up here for 25 minutes. I have literally covered all of them. This is the third time we're doing it. Yeah, we have. I've even um, I talked about the fact that each one of the 5 individual factories in each one of the 5 states has their own individual strike fund. I
Sad.
talked about the fact that, they started on October 5th. The head of the unions are actually heading home today because of the fact that they haven't reached any kind of an agreement within the negotiations. They've
Right.
actually even started putting up job listings, and they're rating them as like temporary jobs with the possibility of long-term placement. So like they're talking about crossing the picket lights in a major way that could affect, the future of this
Mm-hmm.
company. It might cause either like a really big backlash, or it's going to show us exactly how little the capitalistic society and our community is willing to take for this shit. So
Always
I will
profit
be
over
interested to see
people.
which direction that goes in.
Yeah. That's one thing Closet Talk will always say. She profit over people. And it truly is. It's always profit over people. And we are at this point in our society where we can actually start demanding for changes. Our government isn't helping us. So it's for us to change all these things.
That was honestly one of my favorite things about COVID is watching, and I'm going to say it.
Hmm.
People made more money on unemployment and with the stipends that they got from the
Hmm.
government than they got from their 40-hour a week minimum wage job. And
Right.
everybody was very concerned about the idea of you don't want to work, you don't want to work. But it's like you're literally showing the United States population that the majority of them aren't worth enough to survive. you
Correct.
you are not worth paying, and these jobs are not worth paying enough to survive, but we need people to do them. It's like we've become commodities.
Yes. Yep. And have we gone into any self care yet, or we were just plugging?
Nope, I was just plugging, and I went into a little bit of womanism and the difference between the womanist and the feminist movement, and kind of the direction
Hmm.
that you and I think rather than the direction of the way a lot of things kind of go.
Yeah.
I was talking about Alice Walker when you walked in, actually.
Oh.
I had already rambled enough to get to the womanist and to start complaining about the white women.
Right.
You totally saved it, because we all know I can go a little bit far off there if I can't, if nobody's here to reel me in.
Oh gosh. But yeah, I want to talk about self-care. I think it's important in lieu of everything that's going on with TikTok.
Oh,
It has seemed to be in this past few weeks where it's one dumpster fire after the next.
I'm gonna be
And
honest. Since the beginning of the year,
it's
since
wow.
January, since the beginning of the damn year, it has been a dumpster fire.
Just one thing after the other. And in this time of just who knows what,
Yeah.
we need to start doing some self-care. It's a lot of people who really need to embrace mental health, doing their part to get the help that they need.
Mm-hmm.
um, I know I go to counseling. I do a lot. I have to go to counseling. Then I sit with my therapist and we talk about
We almost
medications,
called this
and
show Medicated Moderators, because
that's
both of
it.
us are aware of our mental health. Both of us
Yeah.
have had highs and lows in the last
Hmm.
couple of years due to people passing and COVID and stuff like that. And
Hmm.
like part of the reason that we have kind of grown as close as we have is that like the journey of finding stability and the journey of accepting what it takes to make you a healthy person is almost as important as becoming the healthy person,
Yeah.
realizing how
Yeah.
important it is to dedicate yourself to yourself.
And if you're not taking care of self, you definitely can't take care of anyone else.
That's
And it
exactly.
is tried and true. You can't. Um, I think about, there were certain points where with TikTok we would kind of go off on these tangents like, oh, it's so great. And then sometimes I'm like, I can't.
Yeah.
This app is toxic.
Yep.
I call it TikTok sick.
It
Um,
scares me. It
but
honestly scares me to a certain point. And pardon, I gotta plug something in. There are so many people who are
mhm,
kind of off in this solitary confinement stage, and they are surrounded by family members and people who don't understand them, and they don't feel welcomed, and then they get onto TikTok and they get onto social media sites, and they almost have like this idea of glamorized celebrity, and they meet somebody and they see somebody, and then there are these weird assumed intimacies, and then you get like these
mhm,
attachments, and then when you find out that this person isn't who you think they are, like I've watched whole groups of people just completely deteriorate. And all I could think of was, I worry about their mental health, because something must have gotten them to that point in the first place. They
mhm,
must have been looking for something. I think
yeah,
social
yeah,
media exploits the vulnerabilities on such an extent that
mhm.
you have to be aware of those things. You have to look inside and around yourself.
You
Otherwise, you're going to drown.
To that point, as I was going throughout my therapy and I was starting to get better, and it's
Mhm.
like, because I came on this app and I used to fight with Trumpers. That was
Mhm.
like my outlet. Like, I was filled with rage. I lost my mother, and now we're in a pandemic, and then we got all these people, and it's like, I can't believe you got so dumb. And I was just attacking these people, right? And I'll admit it. I did it because hurt people, right?
Mhm.
But as I progressed in my therapy, I realized, you know what? I'm not that person anymore. I don't like the fighting. What am I fighting them for? These are people too. They're just a little confused. Um, they're just as salty and mean as I was.
Mhm.
And then I think about it, it's like I was hurt though. So that means they're hurting.
Hurt,
Why
like,
why keep the cycle going, you know?
wounded people bleed all over everyone they love if you do not heal yourself.
Yeah.
Like, you hurt people hurt people. If you do
Yes.
not heal yourself and fix your wounds, you're just going to push all of that blood and all of that toxicity all over everybody around you. I did the
Yes.
exact same thing, and it took my daughter actually getting a little bit aggressive and kind of watching me and
Hmm.
seeing her reaction to me for me to realize that, like, not only was I yelling at people online, but I was yelling at people in front of my child. Like, in my head,
Yes.
I was just doing something political. And you know me, even when it's the utmost of passion, there's absolutely thought behind it and everything is very
Oh
much
yeah.
thought out. But like, my daughter was watching me yell at people and then practice yelling at people.
Stabs.
I want to be like QT Pie when I grow up too.
It's a
It
long journey.
it kind of like put myself in my own face, and it was something that I had to just be really careful about
Yeah.
because she was watching me yell at people,
Yeah.
regardless of why
When
I was doing it.
when I realized, like, watching, my algorithm come through, and it was like, oh, this is so exhausting. Like, and it seems like the more you engage, the more come at you,
Yeah.
and it was to the point where they could see my username. Like, I had to go through a plethora of usernames because they could see my username and then they knew to attack me. And it
Really?
was, yeah. And I was like, okay, now I've invited the trouble. Not
Yeah.
only did I engage it, I invited it. So I need to clean this up. So I had to go through and clean up my algorithm and make separate accounts just so I could kind of get back to self. And like, there were accounts where I really didn't want people to follow because I just wanted to scroll and laugh and look at all the DIY stuff. And, as my therapy, I was getting better in therapy. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh, clean talk. How amazing. Oh my God, ingrown hairs. I know it's gross, but I want to see it. Pimple
Right here.
popping.
Yes.
I'm your girl. So yeah.
ASMR, it's soothing. It's
Oh, you are so right. You are so right, Sabs.
hi.
Change that algorithm. It is such a piece. It's so many talented and beautiful people, and you can actually travel through your TikTok. It was it's amazing. And it's like, wow, we live in such a beautiful world, but we can't see that because we're too busy fighting one another and being hurt people and stressed out from work. And it's so much.
And it can be so frustrating because the algorithm will literally, so the people who watch your videos,
Hmm.
their followers and the people who interact with them will be brought to your videos because the algorithm assumes because they watched it all the way through and they've interacted with it, that
Hmm.
everybody that follows them will want to interact with it as well. So even if it's like somebody who is like conflicting, and sometimes that's even better because they like the conflict. They Facebook and TikTok have both admitted in the last 6 months that they have absolutely instigated and have programmed the algorithm to continue on negative and abrasive and racially discriminatory actions. And
Yes.
it's because it invokes emotions, and the emotions invokes the reactions, and the reactions
Hmm.
invokes the content, and the content invokes people coming back, and that's where they can sell to the advertisers. So it's like,
Exactly.
it's almost up to us to kind of step outside of ourselves and realize almost what they're turning us into at certain points.
Hmm. I have this because this theory hit me tonight, and I'm like, through all of our fighting about politics, we are I'm noticing this growth of like different cults. Like,
Mhm.
we knew it started with like Trump and hit, the blind followers, but
Yeah.
then there were different sections of different cults. And
That's,
we all heard about the daddy girls.
yes.
um, and what bothers me about these different cults is that we are neglecting children. We are neglecting people who need people who are hurting. Like, one young lady lost her parent, I think her mom or maybe both parents. So she reached out to the daddy's girls, thinking she was a part of like a BBW support group. Like, she's not thinking, oh, I hate myself. Oh, they're big girls too, they like themselves. So she engaged thinking that's what it was about, but in reality they were trying to, she was doing what she was doing, manipulating them and using them at their lowest point in their lives, which is so sad because it's like that's not what she came there for.
That's
She
what I
can be
mean.
for one thing, but
That's
now she's a part of a cult. So
that's what I mean. Like it's almost it exploits the emotional vulnerabilities.
Mhm,
It plays on the fact, like, there is a gentleman that you and I have discussed privately where I'm trying to figure out if he knows what he's doing or if he's really that way or if he's throwing it out there. Because if you put out onto your algorithm that
mhm,
like a very deep sensitive story about trauma, because there are so many people with such deep trauma looking for association, looking for connections,
mhm.
they are going to be brought to you just out of sheer algorithms form. And
Yeah.
then due to a false intimacy and due to a faked connection, they
Mhm,
are going to invest emotionally in a person who doesn't even realize that they exist. And that's where the exploitation, and that's where being a commodity, and that's when being like weaponized becomes a huge issue, because these
mhm.
people truly believe they're doing it based off of an emotional connection and a personal loyalty, when in fact they're just being exploited due to the vulnerabilities and the lack of mental health care.
It very much is, because especially in the minority or marginalized communities,
Mm-hmm.
therapy, we're starting to now get comfortable with the idea of it, because and I was one. I grew up in the South, and I was raised Baptist, so I knew that if anything happened in my life that was bad, it was of the devil, and I just needed baths in Jesus, to to clear up my problems.
I
But
can't say.
the reality is, it's like you go through life and you have all these emotions. You don't know how to let it out. You don't know how to talk about it. And then you find yourself a middle-aged woman trying to figure out why the hell you can't get out of bed in the morning. Like, what happened to my life? Like, I thought I had a plan, and now the plan has been rocked. What do I do? Um,
It's
so,
it does not
and
surprise me that within your community that is
yeah,
an approach, because first of all, let's go to the baseline of your parents and your family are teaching you that the white world and the community is not going to listen to you or pay attention to you. So if you try to explain or try to get help for your stuff, you're going to be problematic, or you're going to be weak, or they're telling you that this doesn't matter because nobody's going to let it matter in your life. So, like,
correct.
ignoring mental health on a certain level within the Black and Indigenous and oppressed communities, in my eyes, has almost been a level of like survival, because nobody, like, if you are a small Black child with ADHD, you are going to be considered fast, or you're going to be considered disruptive, or you're going to be considered aggressive. You're not going to get the same analysis and the same view that I would get or my children would get. And even more than that, it was like 1976 when
Hmm.
the National Mental Health
Hmm.
Board or whatever even admitted that Black and white people were the same and deserved the same treatment, because they
Correct.
literally said that up until the very final moment of desegregation, and mental hospitals and mental
Hmm.
health facilities were one of the last things to be desegregated, because they literally said Black people were subhuman compared to white people and did not deserve the same empathy and did not deserve the same
Hmm.
fucking equity. I totally get why the Black and Indigenous communities are apprehensive to mental health or to even the vaccination. Like, I will bitch at a white person
I
all day long
can.
for not being vaccinated, but you will never hear me say that to a Black person, because, like, gynecology.
Hmm.
Sorry, I
There
didn't mean to go on
is
a tangent. I got
there are a
opinions.
few phrases that, you know again, that I've heard throughout my life, like
Mhm.
the oh, you worried about something, you need to just pray on it. That is so dismissive.
Yeah.
um you have the phrase, what was it? Because when you were talking, it's like, yeah, there's the phrase that we use, oh, what happens in this house stays in this house. So that in itself, that means any spankings that were too rough, any sexual abuse, anything that you're not supposed to take it outside the home, because
Hold
guess
on one
what?
second.
Then that means, mhm. Ooh, what was that? Okay, you all right? Okay, so those phrases that I've heard growing up, it's like there are a lot of times where it's like I just want to cry. Like it fed an anxiety in me that I remember the first time I had my panic attack. I was in sixth grade health, and I left my book. And I went to tell my teacher, I had a full-on breakdown in front of her. And she looked at me and she was like, "What is wrong?" And I was like, "I left my book." And she was like, "Sweetie, it's okay." And I'm like, "But I normally don't forget my book." you know? But I had a full breakdown because I never expressed any real emotion like, "Hey, I'm hurting. Hey, I need this. Hey, mom, can you just hug me?" Like, I never expressed those things. So that big outpouring of emotion, and I'm,
Mhm.
even to this day, I fight and struggle with crying in front of people. That is one of the hardest things for me to do, is to cry. Like, it's an emotion, right? And it's like,
Yeah.
crying is cathartic. Like, it cleanses the soul. It really does. But I have the hardest time crying or being vulnerable in front of people. And I'm working on it. I'm
But
working on it.
I completely understand. You were made to feel like, and and I can't say that I even blame, like I said, blame your community for it, because think about your age. Now think about the ages they were when they were going through your development as like a teenager. Their world really didn't give a shit about whether or not they were going to cry. The world around them really was
That
like,
is true.
are you going to get the job done and take care of the stuff that I've hired you to do? Because crying is not like what, I don't get it. You weren't going to get anywhere. You were going to be, white women are the only one who gets to cry. That's it. White women are the
Yeah.
only ones who are allowed to cry.
Yeah. And you're taught early that weakness, don't show weakness. Because if you show this world weakness, they'll eat you up and spit you out. And it's like, okay, but what do I do with that? Like, what does that mean for me? Like, how am I supposed to navigate? I'm not supposed to hurt. I'm not supposed to say, "Hey, someone offended me." Like, and then when you have, or let's say you have someone who did something or violated you, yeah, when you go to talk to a police officer, being a black woman, I'm not going to be heard. So it actually validated what they told. Like, you might as well keep it home because nobody's going to save you anyways.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it's,
And white women are taught that, like, um, mommy makes the rules, but if you cry to daddy, you can be daddy's little girl and daddy will step over it. Like there's even within the family structure of the nuclear family,
mm-hmm,
there is this idea that dad is in charge. And if I can make dad be sad for me, or if I can make dad understand, like I just let my daughter go to my parents' house for Halloween so that I could go out of town for a couple of days. Um, when I did that, I came back and she had started, oh no, I'm scared. Oh no, I'm shy. And I'm like, where did this come from? And my
yeah,
mom was like, oh, grandpa totally, I don't buy it for a second, but grandpa totally feeds into that. Grandpa totally thinks that she's scared. Grandpa totally thinks that she's shy. And I, like, literally on the drive home, I'm talking to my 3-year-old child about emotions and about
mm-hmm,
manipulation and about fibbing. And if you know what it feels like to be scared, and there's a difference between being scared and being thrilled. And like, I think that it really honestly starts for us, you and me both,
mm-hmm,
being trained at a very young age which emotions we're allowed to have, which emotions will work for us, what will get us what we need to be, and what will get us protected.
yeah,
Like,
yes,
white women could have knocked this shit off a long time ago, but they haven't. Let's
yeah,
be honest.
yeah.
Like, we had a chance a long time ago to stand up, and like when in the 60s, when the feminist movement happened, we did not have to exclude disabled women. We did not
No,
have to exclude black women. We did not have to exclude trans women. We did not have to exclude indigenous. We centered ourselves because we didn't want to believe our dads, our grandpas, and our sons were shitheads.
mm-hmm,
We chose to be this way. And
yeah.
now it's time for us to fix it and step back in the arena.
And then it's just having these conversations to say, hey, you got to take advantage of it this way, but on this end, I'm known as masculine. Like, if I don't watch the way I speak or my reactions, and I'm very animated, you'll notice. um but if I'm not watching my reactions, I have to watch how I talk to people. I have to
That's
watch
gross.
how I approach people.
Yeah.
um there have been times where I could just be walking and someone be like, "Oh, you look so mean," and it's like, it's my face. Like, what do you mean I look mean? I'm just in my own head. But it's those types of little jabs and microaggressions, and to put me into that angry black woman, trope.
White
And
women
it's
have
like,
standing bitch face, but black women have stank face. Like,
right,
listen to the difference between that,
right.
that alone. Why do you got stank face? Stank face, but
It's like,
women,
what does
black,
that
white women
mean?
have standing bitch face. There's even
Hmm.
like power behind given to them in that. Black women got stank face. That's fucked up to me. I hear this. I'm sorry. I hear this shit all the time. And
Listen,
you know that's where I come from in
a
this.
funny exercise for everyone. If you indulge into adult theater,
Corn on the cob.
yes. So if you indulge in that, just watch it's something as simple as look at the difference between black corn on the cob versus white corn on the cob. Notice the words and the verbiage that is used. It is completely different, and it's funny because I actually heard that as a speaking point, but then I was able to validate it. I mean, we're grown folks talking. I was able to validate, and I was like, I never paid attention to that, but that is true.
My mom's thesis paper was on the code switching of strippers in the United States and how dealing with different races and different economic groups and even different states, they had to do like the social, economic, and code switching and class system of strippers in the United States. And that is absolutely true. Absolutely true.
It's insane.
White
It's like
men
the
want to,
wording is like,
there's
wait,
difference
what?
and yes,
Hmm.
that is absolutely true.
It's so ugly.
Absolutely.
It sounds so like just demonizing. And it's like, wait a minute. Could be the same video, but one black, one white. Even the Asian, like the different genres. Just if you look at them, it's just different.
It
It's like,
is
wow, wow.
all truth.
Yeah,
And that's why I can't wait for the progression of this show, because as we continue to have these conversations and as we continue to follow through these talking points, there are amazing people out there and there are amazing resources out there to not only for us to have these conversations, but to open up other people to understand that these are realities and to
yeah,
accept these experiences in the world around them. And I think that once people start stepping out of the idea of empathy and sympathy and start stepping into the idea of equity, like you don't
hmm,
have to understand to fucking care. You just have to
correct.
like be adjacent to. That's it.
And there is a lot of times I've heard this statement where it's like, well, if if racism exists, like I've never seen it. I never seen it. It's like I don't know a black person. Like I have black friends, and they never said anything. It's like your black friends aren't going to tell you.
You're probably the one they're talking about when you're not around.
You
If
probably
your
don't even
black
know
friends
that
haven't
they
told
don't
you
even
about
like
situations
you,
in their
and you're
world,
not their friend.
I actually heard somebody say, what a great way to tell me that you're not really that close with your black friends.
Right. Yeah. It's something when I hear that all the time, and I'm like, mm, you don't know me very well, and I don't throw the friend thing out too often because of that reasoning. It's like if you can't hear about my day, like genuinely hear about my day, whether it's I went through something, a microaggression, or this is my experience. If you can't do that, then we really can't be friends. Like I can't if I have to code anything about myself or hide away, then you're not truly a friend. If I can't come to you and say, hey, this asshole just told me da 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 because I'm black and that's what he said to me. If we can't have that kind of conversation, yeah, you're not a friend. You're not a
I
friend.
heard a friend of mine told me a story about how she was in the recording studio
Mm-hmm.
and a woman who had already had like racial aggressions toward her and had already made the situation kind of awkward in times past had come up behind her and just grabbed a handful of her hair because she had just dyed it red and she was like, oh my god, this is gorgeous. And there is there's a spiritual connection. These are antennae. This is the way energy is absorbed. This is how energy is transferred for some people, especially people of Afro Indigenous descent. There are huge things within their spirituality that, like, not only are you completely fucking up their consent and their autonomy, but you are literally invading their energy and their space and their practice with the negativity that you have. And she went to several counselors because she immediately got thrown into a deep state of depression. And
Mm-hmm.
she's an extremely spiritualistic woman and she's amazing. And she couldn't figure out what was going on. Finally, the first counselor basically told her she had DID and that she was like coming up with it. But then she was walking out of the office, and the secretary, who was a black woman, heard the story and was like totally there for her and empathized with
Mm-hmm.
her. And on the side, gave her a Jamaican practitioner who is also a counselor to kind of go and see to help her work it out with. But like, there are such huge divides and such huge holes in just like understanding. You not even understanding the experience, but understanding the person.
Mm-hmm.
You are not the same as me.
Right.
We are not the same. You are a Black woman in the United States. I am a white woman in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
The history that you come from, regardless of the differences in our class systems, because I think it's hilarious that you come from what I would be considered to come from, and I come from what you would be considered. Like
Mm-hmm.
us and our backgrounds, stereotypically, they would be switched in the eyes of
Right.
the world.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't mean that like I have any idea what it felt like for you not to get comfort from your mother because she was so busy trying to protect you. It
Right.
doesn't mean that I know what it feels like to have the grandfather that you have that has told the stories that he has. I'll never understand what that feels like ever, regardless of the economic class that I come from. And
Right.
white people need to get that.
It's the not only hair touching, any type of petting. There's another thing that I cannot stand, and I try not to. I don't go there because it's so. If I went down a list of everything I couldn't stand, others to do, nobody would talk to me because I would just be like, I don't like when you do this. I don't like when you do that. I don't like it. But one thing is there is this need within white people that when they're trying to befriend you, they go, "You're just like me. You're just like me. Oh my God, you're like me." And it's like there's this little tap that goes into, oh my God, you're like me. Oh my God, he's just like me. And
I
it's
see
like,
two parts in that.
what?
I see two things wrong with that. If you want me to tell you, I'll tell you, but then like I feel
Yeah,
like I'm
go ahead.
interrupting you. So first of all, um,
Drink
you
my
are
water.
being assumptive because I am a Black woman, and just because we are having a conversation that brings us to a common ground does not mean that we are alike. It does not.
Correct.
And second of all, fuck you for thinking that Black people are so damn different from you that you are like stunned with the idea that we're the same.
Right.
Like there's so those are the two things that I see wrong. Like you're not
It's
appreciating the
a
equity of being a Black
immediate
woman in the world, and
invalidation of a
fuck you for
human.
thinking I'm an animal.
Yes, it's like immediate invalidation of my humanity when you go, "You're just like me." Oh my God. It's like you're human, just like me. Like, look
It
at her walking on her hind legs. Look at her. Like, it gives those vibes.
it's just like that landlord I once heard say, I totally support Black Lives Matter. I've given everyone in the apartment complex a break on rent since COVID. Just because, like, you own a slumlord doesn't mean that everybody in your slum is Black. And that doesn't mean that you're
Right.
an activist. That means you're a decent fucking human being.
Yes, that
You
part.
just said you're a slumlord and racist in the same sentence, in, as far as I'm concerned.
And can I say, and I know, and here's the thing, everything is different for different Black people. Our triggers or responses are not going to be the same. Like, here's one that most people will probably be like, oh my gosh. But referring to us as chocolate, referring to me as, oh, well, you're chocolate or you're caramel or you're, listen, we are not at Aldi's. We are not going down the
We are
baking aisle. What are you talking about? I am a human. Like, don't do that thing because that also lends itself to fetishization. I can't stand it. I can't stand when people do that whole like, oh, I like chocolate. You're a chocolate person. You're chocolate, and it's like, what? What? I'm a Black woman. What are you talking about?
If anything, I'm more related to like chicken.
Yeah,
Can we talk about what you would baste me in if we really want to talk
right.
about
It's like,
edibles and
what?
like,
What is
because
that?
I talk about eating babies and I very much take the heritage of a baby in mind when I'm putting the recipe together. My son is Hawaiian and Japanese. I was definitely like, you are going to get a brown sugar base with a warm sake side. Like I'm not going to lie. I feel like that there are tastes that complement each other, but like I wouldn't say chocolate. No, you're completely
But
negating the savory
to
of the situation.
to just
And that's weird
call
because white people used to eat Black people, and I didn't even like that joke coming out of my mouth. I'm gonna say that right
right,
now.
and it's
That was
like
weird. I felt weird. I'm
chocolate,
sorry.
like,
Gonna reel that in.
and it's like it just reminds me of, and I don't know. Like I said, there are different triggers for different people, but it's like
Mhm.
chocolate. Like, how about I'm just a person standing in front of you? Like, I'm just a girl say hello.
I'm just a girl standing
Just a
in front of a
girl
white man
saying
asking you to
hello.
just see a fucking
Yeah.
woman.
Like,
Don't see it.
do I have to be a food? Like, do I have to be a food? And
Yeah.
does it have to be chocolate? Like,
That's the thing that gets me, is that everybody wants to talk about how we should stop talking about
yes.
racism and how hello,
Hello, how are you?
we know who that is. Um, God
Of
bless family. It
course.
never fails. Like the second you think that you're out of
Oh,
it, they're just like, here we are, we're family.
mm-hmm. That's my family in the comments. Just being,
Yes. But like everybody wants to talk about, let's stop making everything about race. Let's stop talking about race. Let's stop.
Yeah.
Do you think that like a black person would not like to walk out of their front door and like not think about the fact that they're black for 10 minutes? Can we create a space where they don't have to think about that for like 20 minutes, and then we might be able to do like until everybody's treated the same, we can't treat everybody the same.
Right.
Until you
And
stop making them think about it, we got to think about it.
and it's a joke. My friend, he's joking. But
Yes.
there is this thing where it's like you don't have to, like, you wouldn't remind someone with a disability that they have disabilities. You wouldn't remind someone who's overweight that, hey, you're overweight. Like, we have mirrors in our home. We know what we look like. Rest assured, we know what we look like. When you see a black person, you don't have to go ahead and talk about our blackness. First time you meet us. I'm just joking. My friend, he's cool. He didn't do that. We're friends. He's joking. But there are people, I have to
You gonna get
stress
beat up in the
that, there are
comments.
people that do that. And it's like,
Yeah.
if I'm having my first time having a conversation with you and you have to bring up my race, I know what I look like. Like, I know who I am. Like,
Yeah.
it's
I
awesome.
saw Crutches and Spice online, and she
Oh, I
told a
love
really
her.
horrid story, and it broke my freaking heart. But the basis of the story was like, and don't even assume I would change my disability. Don't even assume that like you are the only one who feels you're superior in this moment, because this is who and what I am. It's an aspect of what, like,
Mm-hmm.
assuming that somebody would change their disability, or assuming that somebody would change the color of their skin. White people are so arrogant, and abled people are so arrogant to think that like that other people want to be like them. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
wants to be like you. They're running from you.
And you know what else too? People have to take into account that people assimilate. People are assimilating to whiteness. It doesn't mean they want to be. They just know to have an easier way in life. And that's what's sad. You will see people bleach their skin. And it's like, you think that's okay. It's like, oh, look at her. She's getting lighter or whatever. And it's like, that's really sad that someone is living in existence. I know that's right, Sabs. Someone's living in existence and they're not happy with themselves. And the only way they feel that they can be recognized in this world is to assimilate to something that everyone else considers standard.
And this brings us full circle to the idea of like mental health in the Black community, and the
Mm-hmm.
fact that it's not highlighted and the fact that it's not nurtured is because like it's a survival thing. If your
Yeah.
parents made you feel like this was an important factor in your life, and then you go out into the world and your boss and your friends and everybody's like, we don't care, and even more than that, we disagree with you, you're just disruptive, your parents would be setting you up for failure. It's
Yeah.
almost on a level of assimilation. You have to show that you are not only have not only do you have to show that you have like a healthy mental state of existence, but you have to show no vulnerability because they will exploit it.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
assimilate that much.
Yes. And going back, like you said, full circle, if we're not treating our mental health, and this goes across the board, because I think we all need to hear this message. Look
Mm-hmm.
at how many, like I said about the cults and
Yeah.
the different things that are going on, look at how many of us or how many people are suffering in silence because they were taught these rules that don't show weakness, don't do this. But what you're doing is it's just festering a breeding ground for sex trafficking, for child pedophilia. And we're wondering why this is happening. We wonder how we got R. Kelly, but we have a whole community that kept quiet. Cops, bodyguards, friends, family,
Parents.
parents, just to give their kid a chance. So you ruined them forever. For what? To sing a song? Again, we really need to do some work mentally. That way we can stop hurting each other. It is hurt people hurt people. What were you going to say?
Nothing. I
Oh,
mean, you're absolutely right. It it makes me sad. It makes me sad
yeah.
that like the first thing my family wants to do is put you in like mental health for thing, and almost to the level of like not taking responsibility for one's own actions. We should get you to a clinician to fix this for you instead of dealing with the fact that I as a parent have put you in these situations. But like in
Yes,
your
ma'am.
community it's almost the exact opposite, and it
Hmm.
makes me so sad because like neither one of them are actually, excuse me, utilizing the mental health community at its optimum level.
Yes.
We're both screwed in one way or another.
And capitalism. Let's talk about capitalism in
Yeah.
healthcare, shall we? Please, please, please do your research on your therapists, your counselors. Um, please do your research. You're gonna have to. It's like Princess and the Frog. You're gonna have to kiss a lot of frogs before you get to the right people, because you have some doctors who just want to prescribe stuff to you. They're not helping you get through or deal with anything. They're just medicating you.
I
You
had a
have to be so
psychiatrist.
careful.
I had a psychiatrist when I got
Hmm.
diagnosed tell me that like the medication, one of the side effects, one of the positive side effects of the medication was that I'll lose weight. And my response was, I don't have body issues. Like you are a mental health care professional.
Hmm.
And this is our first interaction. You don't know what I have
Yep.
told you. You don't know what, if I've been honest with you or not. You don't know what
Hmm.
you're triggering in me by saying that shit.
Correct.
it
Hmm.
it kind of opened me up to a level like I've been, due to childhood trauma, I have been in therapy on and off for a lot of things in my life. And like there has only been one or two practitioners that I've run across that I've actually created relationships and could trust. But like
Hmm.
seeing red flags like that early on and understanding that it's them and not you is a huge deal. And just because they have the authority of the situation does not mean that they have your best interest at heart. It does not mean that they have the intersectionality. Today was the first day I saw my counselor's face. And the fact that she is a woman of color made me feel so fucking good because I'm like, you're never going to put me into a box as a white Karen. You're going to listen to my issues from your experience and understand that there's validity in mine.
Hmm.
It's okay to shop around for somebody that makes you feel comfortable. That's kind of the point.
That starts the healing process, actually having to do the work and taking some autonomy into your own life. It's like
Yeah.
having a say. That helps so much to have a say in who you invite to listen to your troubles and how they treat you and handle you. Also back to capitalism, insurance, insurance companies.
The state we both live in is like the epitome of insurance bullshit, both like medical and financial and
It will
where.
make you some there were times in my therapy where I was like, it's the insurance companies now that are like, it's not what I came in for is not what's going to really hurt me. What's hurting me is the insurance companies because
And big
they're
pharma.
horrible. The paperwork is lost. And it's like, I'm already dealing with mental illness. I don't need to deal with your paperwork. I'm trying to get out of bed every day. Can you not fax a paper over? Like, I don't have time
The
for
fact
that.
that it takes the bureaucracy to get you in the waiting line and then it takes you 6 weeks to even get a counselor, and like it took me to like lose my shit to even get to the point to need the
Mhm.
counselor, and now you're gonna make me wait 6 weeks before I even get the evaluation that tells you whether or not I need a counselor. Like,
Right.
dude, I'm a single mom in a house during a pandemic, and I have literally told you I am scared, need counseling, need some help, and you're like, wait 6 weeks.
Yep. Or did you go to the hospital? Like, did you get hospitalized? And it's like, why would you want me to get hospitalized? That's like asking me if I want to go to jail. No, thank you. No, thank you. I know what hospitals do. They overcharge you for everything and do absolutely nothing. But every
And
time
let's
you go
be
to fall
honest, being a
asleep,
black
someone comes and
woman,
wake you up.
being an
It,
institutionalized black woman in the United States has not worked out for a lot of fucking people.
exactly. It's like, lady, I'm not falling for the okey doke. No, I'm not going to any hospital. Are you crazy? I'm sad. I'm not like,
I'm not
I'm sad.
stupid.
I'm not stupid. Yeah.
No, ma'am. I've seen American Horror Story.
Yeah. They And it's like, what? To dope me up and pick and prod and for my family to wonder what happened to me because what? No.
No.
Because they tend to make it worse, especially for our military. They just feed them medicine and, but that's a whole nother beast. That's a whole nother beast. And I
Yeah.
can't even imagine for indigenous families because of their plights. There's the generational alcoholism. There's the just not being counted,
Do
which
you
is
know
so
that
sad.
in places where they have been given reservation lands and in
Hmm.
places where they have like stuff that is their own autonomy, that they do not have jurisdiction in local police forces and they are not allowed to call local police forces. They literally have to go to the federal government for everything, including healthcare and the amount of actual help that they get from the federal government. So like not only are the local and the state and the community, like the local county based governments not giving them any help or any aid, but the federal government is reneging on absolutely everything that they've actually said that they would do. So they can't ask locally. They're being laughed at on a federal level. They don't have clean water. They don't have
No,
freaking
they don't.
plumbing. They don't have like homes with insulation or doors. And they're in places like the Dakotas and out in the Great Plains where it freaking is below freezing for the majority of the year. And this is theirs. This is theirs. I live on
Yes.
Seminole land. I live on like
Hmm.
this is theirs.
I had a phone number, and I'll see if I can find it. But I had a phone number. If you text it,
Mm-hmm.
your location, it would tell you what indigenous land you were staying on. And I was just like, wow, because you can learn different tribes that way. And it's like, that is the neatest thing, but it's the saddest thing because we have to have that instead of having the people here to tell their own stories
How
and to invite us in.
how big would the explosion be if you think that the white Texans realized that the Mexicans were actually more indigenous than the Texans were? Because like
They
that's
would
actually
be,
the
yeah,
indigenous people of Texas. They got pushed down south
they
because like could you imagine like the people that they're locking in cages and their children if
also
we were like, hey, guess
California.
what? This is actually theirs and you have to go. I
Yeah,
want to see the explosion of their faces. I
even
do.
California, as big as that state is, even California.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we have gone an hour, but you were late. So if you want to continue, I will not kick us off. But if
No,
you
we
would
can
like to jump,
go.
that is fine because we said we would
I
stay
don't
on
want
for
to.
an hour.
I don't want to do too much for you guys. Just a little bit. Just give it a little something.
I love
But
you.
it was fun. This was a good talk, and I hope everyone enjoyed it. And you know, we solved all the world's issues tonight. So
We
until the
did. I
next
hope they
time,
create more.
right? We always solving the world's issues. So until the next time, we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.